Hi, this is Darren from Property Prosperity. Today I thought I'd have a bit of a chat to you about if you're looking at putting your house on the market and you've sort of, obviously generally you'd get an agent to come in there and give you a bit of an idea of where your house is worth. Hopefully when your agent has done this, sat down with you, they've actually taken you through comparable sales in the area. What you're trying to find is, to be honest, you're never going to find a house that's the same as yours because every house is different, every house is unique. But what you're trying to find a house which is similar that you can just sort of add some money to or take some money off based on certain things. So they might have done their kitchen or they might have done their bathroom, or it might be a bigger block or a smaller block, or it might be a newer house or an older house. So they're sort of comparable sales that you can just sort of adjust for based on the fact that your house is slightly different. So, and then what you want to do, you want to get it relatively close as far as, sold within the last few months or 6 months or so. Or if the market's done nothing over the last year or so, you can probably go back a year. When you start going back 2 or 3 years, then it's probably not that comparable. Likewise, location's really important too. So you want to find something that's relatively close, hopefully within walking distance. So probably within like 100, maybe 500 meters or so. Maybe a kilometer, subject to the council, the area you're in is relatively the same. Sometimes you find if you go across the road, it's a totally different area and different price range and that sort of stuff. So you really got to use your own gut feel of whether you think you're comparing like with like, and then you start to take into account slightly different variations between each house. So you really have to put a lot of effort into the house you're comparing against. You really have to think, okay, well, is it the same? If not, why not? And then you got to go through all the photos of that house when it was on the market, the way the house was marketed, what price it started at, what price it ended at, all that different stuff. How it was marketed. Was it, did it just sit on the market or do it at auction? How long it sat on the market? All those things are going to have a big impact on what price the house is, and not just what price it sold for, but why it sold for a particular price. So that's if you're trying to work out what your house might be worth. The problem you might find is you do all this analysis and there's literally no houses the same as your house. Like there's no, it might be, in a farm, or it might be a commercial property, or it might be something you really have no idea or what it might be worth. And to be honest, the only way you're really going to find out is to put it on the market. At the end of the day, the market's going to pay what the market thinks it's worth. So to be honest, it doesn't really matter what the agent thinks the house is worth. It doesn't really matter what you as the owner thinks the house is worth. Because I'm not, me as the real estate agent, I'm not buying a house, and you're not buying a house because you're selling it, obviously. So really what we need to do, we need to get a big sample size of people to come in and say, okay, well, we think your house is worth this. The difficulty you get is, how do we do that? How do we get lots of people to come and tell us what the house is worth? Because obviously if you're a buyer, they're going to say that it's worth a lot less than what it may be worth, because they don't necessarily want to tell you the truth. So my advice to you is just get as many people to come and have a look at the house as possible. What you will have to do though is you have to actually put it on the market to make that happen, because you can't open the house up to just random people coming and have a look at the house. And likewise, your house has to be as good as it's possibly can be. You have to present it as well as you possibly can. You've got to show it in every possible light as if someone was going to come and buy the house. So my advice is to get as many people to come and have a look at the house as possible. The cool thing about that too, firstly, you get lots of feedback. Secondly, it looks really cool. If you do get 1 or 2 real buyers and there's 100 other buyers there, no one knows who the real buyers are and who the random people are. So it looks really good if you come to an open, there's like 100 people there, rather than you come to an open and there's like 2 people there. And then what you do, those 100 people, just try and get as much feedback as you can. Try and get them to be as honest with you as you can, to find out what they think the house might be worth, and then take a bit of a survey. Try and take a judge from there. So that's one way to try and do it. But understanding the problem is you have to put it on the market to make that happen. So the next question is, unfortunately, by law, you have to actually tell them what price you want for the house. So there's a couple of ways for marketing a property. Obviously, you can just put it on the market and put a price there. So let's say we have no idea what it's worth. We might put it on there at 500,000, but it might be worth $1 million. Or likewise, we put it on there at $1 million and it's only worth 500,000. We don't want to scare people away or misrepresent the fact that maybe they can't afford it when they think it's worth 500,000, when potentially other people think it's worth $1 million. And unfortunately, what's happened too is the government, because a lot of agents have tried to take advantage of the fact that they know if they underprice a property, they'll get lots of people there, and then they try and convince them to pay more money. The government's actually legislated against that by saying that you have to actually market the property within a 10% price range of what you think the house is worth. And so the danger about that is, if I'm marketing it, hey Chris, thanks for joining, if I'm marketing it within 10% of the price range of what I think it's worth, and I literally have no idea what it's worth, I might be misleading people, not because intentionally I'm trying to mislead people, but because the fact I have absolutely no idea what it's worth, and until someone starts putting in an offer, I'm not really sure what it's going to sell for. So that's one, I suppose, concern about putting on the market as an actual price when you don't know what it's worth. The other option is you go to auction. In that theory, you go to auction, you should. Then everyone just fights against it, and you'll find out what it's worth when someone actually puts in a bid and they find out what the highest bid is, and that's what's accepted. The issue with that, you still have the legislated requirement. Hey Tracy, thanks for joining. You still have the requirement of, okay, well I'm going to go up to auction. The government actually makes you put a price, what you think it's going to sell for at auction, and if it sells outside of that 10% price range, then the agent's in trouble for not giving a fair price range. So again, even you've got flaws in that whole auction process, because you still have to try and guess what the house is going to sell for. My other concern when you go to auction is there's a lot of flaws with auctions in the fact that when you're selling a house at auction, it has to be cash unconditional, and you're going to find that most people don't have cash sitting in their bank account. Imagine a $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 house. Who's got $600,000 of cash sitting in their bank account to be able to buy the property? So, and even me as a mortgage broker, when I'm giving advice to people, I tell them not to buy at auction, because my concern is, fair enough, we can get pre-approval, but pre-approval doesn't count if the valuation doesn't stack up, or if you've got an old Telstra bill you haven't paid and you can't get your finance, then you're stuck. You've got a $600,000 house you have to settle in 30 days when you can't get your finance. What are you going to do? You're stuck, basically. So you find that auctions do scare a lot of people off because they're not cash unconditional, or purely because they're just scared of the process of auctions. What that means is you're only opening up to a very small percentage of the market. And for me, if I'm trying to sell a house for someone, I want as many people to be able to buy the house as possible. So I don't want to start excluding people from buying the house. I want it to open up to more people than others. So then the question is, okay, well, I'm not going to put it on the market at a price because I don't really know what the price is going to be. I don't want to go to auction because obviously I know that's not the best way to try and sell a house, because I'll end up misleading hey Rick, thanks for joining. Hey Tracy, thanks for joining. So yeah, if I go to auction, I'm going to find out that I'm excluding a whole pile of people. And also with auctions, you're going to find you can never sell at the highest price, because at auctions it's an open bidding process. So basically what happens, let's say I think your house is worth $550. We go to auction and the bidding stops at $510. I'm going to stop bidding at $510. I'm not going to keep bidding up to $550 because I know that everyone else has stopped bidding as well. So the problem you get with the auction process is you're only ever going to get the second highest price rather than the highest price, because you don't have to keep bidding against yourself. So you're just going to stop. Whereas the way I negotiate, I prefer to go on the market and then tell people, hey, the more you offer, the more chance of getting it. And essentially you don't know what other people are offering. So you're just going to have to keep bidding to the highest you're willing to pay. Otherwise you might miss out on the property. And so, thanks Rick, thanks for the kudos. And yeah, so the next thing is, how are we going to do it then? So we've decided we're not going to market, we're not going to put a price on it because we're worried we might have no idea what it's worth. We're not going to go to auction because we're worried about limitations that auction has. So what else can we do when we have no idea what the house is worth? So what they do in the world of commercial property is they do something called a tender process, or sometimes they say offers considered, or they might say they've got a time to be able to put a price in with a certain date range. That's in the commercial world, that's pretty common. In the residential world, that's pretty uncommon, to be honest. So what I do know other agents doing it interstate, and it is really successful. And what they do is it's called a set date sale. And so by doing this, what we do is when we put it on the market, we say we're going to sell it in 2 weeks, and it's going to sell at a price. Just tell them the owners are keen to sell it, and then try and get as much interest in the property as possible, and just say, hey, the price isn't the deciding factor, the date frame, the time frame's the deciding factor. So what that means, people know that people need to sell the house within the next 2 weeks. So you're going to get all these people that are going to rush in trying to get a bargain. And so the cool thing is, just the way I try to market a property by trying to get hundreds of people to come look at the property, you still get the hundreds of people to come and look at the property, but also you get all these people trying to get in there, trying to get a bargain. Just creates this sort of an auction environment, sort of a bidding frenzy where everyone wants to get in there and try and buy the property. The cool thing is no one really knows what the property's worth because there's no comparable sales. So everyone's competing against a price which at the moment is fictitious until someone pays that price. So what that means is you're just sitting there waiting to find out where these prices go to. And the cool thing is you set a time frame on this, because the danger is in the traditional sale process, if you set a price, firstly you might overprice or underprice it, but also if you overprice it, it might sit on the market for too long. You've lost the momentum of having it on the market so quickly and having people bid against it, because you find the quicker you get to sell the property, probably the higher you're probably going to sell the property, because that's when you get the most interest and that's when you get the best offers, basically. So by putting a time limit on it, those people that come in, they know they've got a set time that they need to make a decision. They need to put in their best price. The cool thing about this is you're getting feedback really quickly. You've got 2 weeks to try and find out where the market's at. If you then decide that's a fair price, then you can accept that offer. If after 2 weeks you don't think it's a fair price, at least you've got a good gauge of where the market's at, and then you can either decide to take it off the market, and then you haven't lost anything essentially, or you then can put it at a price that you think's around the mark compared to what people are bidding. Maybe it might be a little bit more, but at least you've got a bit of a gauge on the market. No one's going to be annoyed because they know it was only a 2-week period they've had to do it for. And then from then, you've got huge amounts of market feedback. You've created that momentum where people are fighting for it, and yet you're still not misleading anyone in the fact that you're not overpricing or you're underpricing the property. So keep an eye out for it. I think it's a really good strategy to try and sell your property. It's called a set date sale, and I know it's a bit unusual, but yeah, I'm definitely going to start doing a little bit more when I've got some unusual properties that it's really hard for me to try and pick the price for. So if you've liked what I had to say, then click on the like button. If you haven't liked it, still click on the like button anyway, because I'd really appreciate it. And if you know that someone has a really unique property and they're really apprehensive about going to auction, because to be honest, you're going to find pretty much 99% of agents are going to try and push you into auction because it is the easiest way to try and sell a house, and so agents quite often look at the easiest option rather than the option that's going to get you the highest price. So if you don't necessarily want to just sell it the easiest way, you want to try and maximize the price. But then likewise, you're concerned about putting a set price on there might undersell the property. So yeah, have a look at set date sale, or give me a call or message me. I'm happy to talk about it a little bit more for you. And yeah, if you know someone's got this problem, then click a share button. I'm sure they'd appreciate it. Or otherwise, yeah, if you've got something you'd like me to talk about in a future episode, put a comment in the comment box. I'm happy to chat about anything to do with property, and I look forward to catching you up again next time. Thanks, guys.